Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar. I'm excited to discuss and show you three useful techniques for optimizing product portfolios: correspondence analysis, factor analysis, and turf analysis. I'll work in Displayr like usual, but don't worry if you're a Q user. You can do everything in Q. If you have any questions, please type them into the questions field in GoToWebinar, and I'll go through as many questions at the end as possible. If you don't have Displayr and want to learn more about how to leverage its built-in expertise to easily perform advanced analyses, you can book a demo using the web address shown here. Let's say a bubblegum manufacturer currently offers two flavors, classic bubblegum and cola, and they decide to expand their portfolio and offer additional flavors. A logical question is, which flavors should they add? A lot of companies confront this same problem. For example, a retailer might wonder what range of products to sell or what media they should use for advertising. And a manufacturer, like a bubblegum manufacturer, might wonder what portfolio of product features to offer. I'll start by adding a data file with 712 respondents. In the survey for this data set, asked respondents which of these 11 bubblegum flavors they liked, and respondents could pick multiple flavors. Let's take a look at the raw data. This raw data table here has a row for each respondent, and the ones indicate flavors they like, and zeros indicate flavors they don't like. So the first respondent likes the classic bubblegum, grape, sour, orange, and cola flavors. This summary table here tells us that 66% of people like the classic bubblegum flavor. This is what's called the reach of the classic bubblegum flavor. That is, a portfolio that just has one flavor, only classic bubblegum, reaches 66% of the market. The cola flavors reach is 38%. Now, if you add these percentages together, you'd get 104%, which is impossible. You can't just sum the percentages and ignore the duplication or overlap that exists due to people who like both flavors. What we need to do is calculate the total unduplicated reach of the two flavors. One way to do so is simply adding a net of those two flavors to the summary table. Here we go. And we see the total unduplicated reach of a two-flavor portfolio with the classic bubblegum and cola flavors is 75%, or 74.7% to be more precise. The goal of this study is to find the best combinations of flavors to expand market reach. The most basic way of analyzing data like this is to create something that's called a duplication matrix that has brands or products, or in this case, flavors, in both the rows and the columns. So let me quickly add flavors to the columns as well. And by default, we see the column percent. But I'm going to go ahead and actually change it so the table shows total percent, which is better for this analysis. There we go. Now, reading the first row, we see that 66% like just classic bubblegum, 35% like classic bubblegum and super strong bubblegum, 45% like classic bubblegum and grape, and so on. Now remember, the reach for classic bubblegum and cola was 75%. We can actually compute this reach using this duplication matrix. So let me show you how. We know that classic bubblegum by itself has a reach of 66%. And then we just add to that the reach of cola by itself, which is 38%. And then we subtract the duplication, which is the 29% that like both classic bubblegum and cola. And after we do that simple calculation, you can see that the total unduplicated reach is 75%. Now there's a lot going on in this table here, which makes it tough to find patterns. Fortunately, we can use correspondence analysis to quickly find patterns for us. I'm going to go ahead and search for correspondence analysis. So Displayr tells us where to find it. And you'll see that Displayr points us towards 3 options for correspondence analysis. Okay. So I'm going to actually search for duplication matrix and see if that narrows down our options. And you can see now that Displayr suggests we do a correspondence analysis of a square table, where square means the labels of the rows and the columns in our input table are the same. So I'm going to trust Displayr's built-in expertise and select that. And then I just need to select our duplication matrix, flavors by flavors, as the input table. Okay. The closer 2 flavors are, the greater the duplication between them. We see the 2 current flavors, classic bubblegum and cola, have a lot of duplication between them. So there's probably no point in adding super strong bubblegum or grape, as they also appeal to the same group of people. I'm going to add a call out to that effect. There we go. To expand reach, it probably makes sense to add a non-traditional flavor or flavors, since they're the farthest away and therefore have the least duplication. I'll also call out that. All right. There we go. Well, correspondence analysis is great for distilling patterns in 2-dimensional tables. Factor analysis can sometimes give us a more nuanced view with more dimensions. And what most of you know as factor analysis is technically called principal components analysis. I'll select that and add our flavors as the variables. And this initial factor analysis reveals 3 flavor components or dimensions. The first is sweeter fruits. The second is traditional flavors. And the third is citrus fruits. This suggests a good portfolio should have representation from all 3 components. Now, by default, Displayr uses something called the Kaiser rule to work out the number of components. But it's usually worth checking to see if this is clearly the best solution or if there's a bit of noise. And we can check by changing the output of our factor analysis from a loadings table to something called a scree plot. The x-axis shows the number of components, while the y-axis shows how much information they explain. If we see a sharp corner, that's telling us that the 3-component solution was clearly the best, but we don't see that sharp corner. This curve here is actually pretty smooth, so we should explore other options. Instead of using the Kaiser rule to work out the number of components, I'm going to manually state the number of components, and we'll start with 2. With 2 components, we basically get the same result as the correspondence analysis. We have a traditional component, a fruit dimension, and sour and chocolate are somewhere in between. Let's take a look at a 4-component solution. The 4-component solution is very similar to the 3-component solution. We have a sweet fruit component, a traditional component, a citrus component, and a chocolate only component. I'm going to go ahead and add a quick comment. All right. While correspondence analysis and factor analysis are general tools for finding data patterns, turf analysis is specifically designed for portfolio optimization. I'll go ahead and start my first turf. And our alternatives are the flavors. What turf does is it searches through the data and it finds the combinations of alternatives, or in this case, flavors, that maximize reach. This output here shows the top 10 portfolios that consist of 2 flavors. The best 2-flavor portfolio consists of classic bubblegum and strawberry, and it has a reach of 82.4%, and it has a total of 747 choices, where this frequency here, it counts people twice if they like both flavors. Let's check out a 3-flavor portfolio. With 3 flavors, the best portfolio consists of a traditional flavor, a citrus flavor, and a sweet fruit flavor, which is basically what we saw before. But look at the second best portfolio, which is almost as good as the best portfolio. It has classic bubblegum and grape, and we know those 2 flavors have high duplication. So since these top 2 portfolios don't differ a lot, with the best portfolio only being 0.6% better than the second best, we have a lot of flexibility in choosing our best portfolio, and we can actually trade off tactical and operational factors when making our decision. Now, if we're going to have more than 2 flavors, we probably want to include classic bubblegum and cola. We can actually force the turf to include those 2 flavors using constraints. So in other words, we can actually tell the turf that it must include classic bubblegum, and it also must include cola. I'll switch it back to a 2-flavor portfolio. And we see once again that reach is 75%. If we add a 3rd flavor, we see here that we should add strawberry. With 4 flavors, we should add sour. We see grape is added to the mix with 5 flavors. And last but not least, let's take a look at 6 flavors. With 6 flavors, chocolate enters the picture, but notice that orange has replaced sour. And you can see that in the 3rd best 6-flavor portfolio, it includes sour, and it has a reach that's only 0.3% lower than the best 6-flavor portfolio. So this is well within noise, so we can actually force the results to be consistent and also include sour as a constraint here. So in other words, in addition to including classic bubblegum and cola, we'll tell it to also include sour. Here we go. Now, let's pull all these turfs together and visualize the results. And a great way to visualize the gains achieved by adding flavors is something called an incrementality or waterfall plot. And all you do is select the turfs you want to include. And I'm just going to make the data labels a little bigger so you guys can more easily read them. And I'll do the same for the x-axis. There we go. We see that adding strawberry increases reach by 14%, and then adding sour on top of that increases reach 6% more. Adding grape increases reach by only 2.5%. So the trick just might be adding strawberry and sour to classic bubblegum and cola, and then just sticking with the 4-flavor portfolio. This is where your judgment and other factors come into play, and you need to decide if the incremental gains from adding a flavor are worth it. For those of you who like a lot of detail, you can find a lot of it in our turf ebook that you can download using the web address shown here. And a friendly reminder to those who don't have Displayr and would like to learn more, that you can book a demo using the web address shown here. Now, let's switch gears and take a look at your questions, and just give me a moment to pull them up. Okay, so we got one question so far. Oh, we just got another one. And Taylor's asking, how is the reach by flavor question asked? And he's wondering, or she's wondering, if it was just a multi-select question. And the answer is yes. It was simply a question that asked, which of the following bubblegum flavors do you like? Please select all that apply. Okay, and we see here Salvador actually asked pretty much the same question. Okay, so the key is you need to use binary data as the input to your turf. Okay, so by binary, I mean zeros and ones. So remember, in this case, zeros indicate flavors respondents don't like, and ones indicate flavors they do. Okay, Michael's asking, can you use multiple binary variables as the input? And yes, you can. I don't see why. Okay, all right. Taylor's got another really, really good question. Okay, so they're asking, can we, if we run a max diff, can we use the utility scores as inputs into a turf? And yes, you can, Taylor. And that's actually very common. The key is you need to transform the utility scores into binary data. Okay, so for example, one way you could do so is, you basically pick a threshold at which, hey, if our utility scores are higher than this threshold, you assign a 1. If they're not, you assign a 0. Okay, and Displayr has tools that can make creating binary variables really easy for you. I don't have data to actually do it, but just want to point out that one of our ready-made new variables scripts is binary variables right here. Okay. Okay, so John is asking, other than product preferences, can you see turf being used across other question types? Can you provide examples? Yeah, I mean, product preferences. Again, I know that turf was actually initially developed in the advertising industry, and it was used to, basically figure out, hey, what advertising methods or media were most effective and had the greatest reach. In other words, reached the greatest number of people. So, there's a wide variety of applications for turf. It's not just product preferences. Again, you could do it for different types of media. You could do it for, here we're doing flavors, but also, hey, if you're a car manufacturer, what features should you bundle together? Okay. Hey, Misha, great question. So Misha's asking, how you create the curve for factor analysis again. So happy to show you how to do that. Okay. And what I'll do is change it back to using the Kaiser rule to work out the number of components. Okay. All right. So this is what we started with for our factor analysis. And yeah, all you do, Misha, is change the output from a loadings table to a scree plot. Okay. And yeah, what you're looking for is a really sharp corner. Okay. So if you see a sharp corner, that's telling you that the factor analysis is that you've performed is probably as good as you can do, is the best one. But if not, if you see a smooth curve like this here, it means you probably want to explore other options. Okay. And John, yes, we will share the recording in a follow-up email. So just keep an eye out for that in your inbox. Okay. So just taking a look, we got a couple other questions that are coming in. So let's see. Yeah, so someone's asking, could this also be, used for message testing? So let's say, a company's developed 16 messages for a global campaign, and they want to find out which combination of messages, would be most effective. Yeah, I see no reason why you couldn't use turf analysis to find the best combination of messages, depending on how many messages you want to use. Yep. Okay, and we have one more question. So what is the minimum sample size needed to run a turf analysis? I don't think there's an ironclad rule. I think it's like, most things where, a little of your judgment comes into play, and the more data you have, the better. Okay, well, that's all the questions. So thank you everyone for joining, and keep an eye out for an email with the recording in your inboxes. and have a great rest of your day. Take care.